Hey, Shalom, Israel. I'm priest and officer of 1,000 Officer of War. And I'd like to begin the class by saluting all the brothers, all the Akim, all the Adawanyam, Yahweh Hashem Yashabakatham, salute all the Akwati and all the sisters, Yahweh Shema Alakah, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Hey, Shalom, Israel. This is the I.S.U.P.K, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. Since 1969, the I.S.U.P.K has been bringing out the truth of the Bible that so-called blacks, so-called Latinos or Hispanics, so-called Native Indians, First Nation men, women, and children are in fact the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, the chosen people of God, the biblical and ethnic Jews, right? So we'd like to thank the Most High for bringing us to another Sabbath day, a day of rest, right? So we'd like to, talk about current events as we see the Lord is visiting the earth and what Christ told the apostles to look for. Why us here in the I.S.U.P.K is excited is because we see what Christ said is coming to pass. In Matthew 24, the disciples asked him, what shall we be the sign of that coming and of the end of the world, right? And Christ proceeded to give them clues to see, Officer Abad, right? Wars, rumors of wars, nation against nation, right? So now I was on social media and I seen that a lot of black people are scared, Officer Abad. You know, they saying we vote we. When they're talking about America, they like to use the word we. Right. And, contrary to popular belief, if you're black and Latino, you can see with the ICE agents that you're not part of the we. Right. You're not an American. This week, Donald Trump just passed, or the courts, the Supreme Court, Officer Ibad, I don't know if you heard about it, just stopped the block and let Donald Trump be able to get the right to write an executive order to end birthright citizenship. Now, you might not understand what the significant meaning. If you're born in America, you're an American, right? The reason why they're so wanting to end birthright citizenship is because if you're born in America, then you have a child here. Say you come here illegally, Officer Abad, and you have a child. That child automatically becomes a citizen. So now the oppressor saying, oh, that's how the Latinos is getting here. Let's cut that off. Let's cut off all that, meaning if you come here illegally, no longer will you be able to get citizenship status because they want to control it. You understand? So that's what's going on. So now, the point of all that is Zephaniah 2:1. The Lord told us to come together. There's two things in Zephaniah. Officer Ibad, blacks and Latinos and Native Indians, we need to end the hatred amongst each other. Right. Black people no longer have to explain to Latinos that we're brothers and tell them all the good things that blacks done for Latinos. Right. Vice versa, Latinos shouldn't have to be telling black people, hey, join this fight because we did this for you during slavery and we have a common enemy. We should just understand that we did not know who we were as a nation and who we are as a nation. But since 1969, the Lord established the I.S.U.P.K, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, to teach that the 12 tribes are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, that we make up one family. So if I could offer side back, you get Zephaniah 2:1 real quick.
This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 2, and verse 1. Gather yourselves together.
So now, as we see the ICE agent coming after our Latino brothers, guess what's happened simultaneously? You hear unarmed black men and black women getting unalived by the police. So on one side of the family, we're being attacked by the race soldiers called the police department, right? And on the other side, we're getting attacked by the ICE agent, another arm of the federal government. You understand? So because we're both getting attacked, we have a shared enemy, a common enemy, a common bond. So the Lord is telling us we need to come together. Not me, but God in the Bible. Zephaniah 2:1. God said, what, Officer Abba? Read that again.
Gather yourselves together.
Gather together. Why does God have to tell us to gather together? Because we are separated. Read on.
Yea, gather together.
He reiterated, yes, come together. Yea, come together. Read.
O nation not desired.
Because as blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, we're the nation not desired. You understand? Your cousin, your uncle, your brother, your nephew that's locked up in jail, guess what they didn't have? They didn't have due process. They got locked up surely on the fact of the color of their skin, right? In the majority. We just heard that the oppressor that shot 4 Edomites, right? So-called white people, oppressors, shot 4 of them, Officer Ibai, unalive 2 of them. You know, he's while he's in jail, he has a public defender. Now we all know the reason why the jail is full of black people is because we get we in poverty, so we can't afford the high-paid lawyers, right? So now because we go to court with a public defender, then the public defender just say, hey, take whatever deal the prosecutor have on the table. And their idea of a deal is 10 to 20 years in jail. This oppressor that shot 4 people, unalive 2 of them, they say he don't like the conditions of the jail. And the judge agreed with him. So read that last part again. So that's what the oppressor get. White supremacy, they allowed to get treated like this, right? You see the news story about him, they call him the suspect. And when he got captured or arrested, you didn't see no lumps on his face. You didn't see a black eye, no bruises on him. Not even his hair was disheveled. But for us, for having an air freshener on the visor of your car, read.
Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
O nation not desired. Everybody want to pray for the Palestinian. Who is praying for the Latino tribes, for the Nicaraguan? Right. You understand? For the Panamanian, for the Dominican, for the Chilean, for the Venezuelan. Who's praying for the Haitian?
Right.
But you want to pray for a bunch of Nazis called the Ukraine? Because those are former Nazis. You understand? The war between Russia and Ukraine is not a new war. The Ukrainians are just Nazis. And back then, the Nazis fought against the Russians, and the Russians stopped the Nazis. Right. So now in 2025 is the same war, the Nazis versus the Russians. Right. And you walking around, blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, on their social media profile, they got the Nazi flag, the Ukrainian flag, the yellow and blue flag in their profile. Right. Pray for Ukraine. Pray for Palestine. But who's praying for the Haitian? Who's praying for the Latino? Right. Who's praying for the Native Indian that every day their daughters come up missing and nobody seems to have an answer? You understand? Our Mexican brothers, children that's locked up in cages on the border. ICE agents or Joe Public white man putting on a mask and putting on a tactical vest and just grabbing any random Latino saying he's an ICE agent and kidnapping our people. Like the general said, that's called rendition. So we're that nation not desired. So now that we know that we're that nation and God told us to come together, now you need to what? Log on to these classes and come into the I.S.U.P.K. If you can't physically make it in here, then you tune in online. And you learn your identity. Now you're finding out how important your identity is. You understand? Because white America showed you how important identity is. Right. White people don't care that Donald Trump is a convicted criminal, right? They don't care that he had 40 indictments. Right. They don't care that he grabbed women by the vagina. They don't care that he had 12 sexual assault charges against him, right? That he's a failed businessman. All they care about is that he hates Mexicans. And he hates black people, because you see that they rolling back every so-called achievement black people gained during civil rights. They rolling all those back. So you go back to the scripture, we're that nation not desired. So on one hand, they erasing all the achievements black people made in this country, and at the same time, they locking up and kidnapping the Latino tribe. We're that nation not desired. So now you're finding out white people, when it comes to their identity, they didn't do what you did. They didn't vote according to their political affiliation, Officer Ibai. Right. White people didn't vote because they were Democrats, or they didn't vote because they were conservative or Republican. They voted for white supremacy. So whether you were Democrat or Republican, one thing that united both sides of the wing of that bird was they hate this nation, the Israelites. Right. So they voted their conscience. They voted for white supremacy, Donald Trump, right? And Steve Miller, the white supremacist government. And you see what the result is. They're happy that Donald Trump is doing what he said, right? Right. He's kicking out the Latinos. He's locking up and hurting black people. White America applaud. So what is your responsibility to do as a people of God? Follow the words of God. Right. Return back to your identity as the nation of Israel. put away your sin. What is sin? Transgression of the law. Eating swine's flesh, right? Pork, crab, shrimp, and lobster. Leave these fake religions. You know, Christianity is white supremacy. You understand? Christianity is the imagination of the Bible or in the mind of white folk.
Right.
That's what Christianity is. It's their imagination. That's not what the Bible says. White people cannot understand the Bible. The oppressor cannot understand the Bible. If you could, Officer Biden, and prove that point. Psalms 50 and 16. If you're listening to the oppressor, you basically a slave. Because a free man would not listen to his slave master.
Right.
So if you're still in Christianity in 2025, you're a slave. If you're still hating a Latino today in 2025, you're still a slave. Because you hate what your oppressor hates and you love what your oppressor loves. Guess what? Us here in I.S.U.P.K, we love what God loves, which is blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. We hate who God hates. That's what? The oppressor and all heathen nations. Go ahead, Officer Abad, and then we're going to go into the lesson.
This is the book of Psalms, the 15 verse 16. But unto the wicked.
But unto the who?
The wicked.
But unto the wicked, read on.
God saith.
The Most High saith, read.
What hast thou to do to declare my statutes?
What hast thou to declare the statutes? What are the statutes? The laws. Read on.
Or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth.
And take the covenant of God in thy mouth as being a chosen people of God. The so-called Jew saying he's a chosen people. White people saying God is white. You understand? Jesus is a white man. That's all lies. So we just read it. What hast thou to do to declare my statutes? What does the Bible got to do with you, oppressor? So black man, God is telling you that your idea of what God says in the Bible is wrong because you was taught by your oppressor. So who should you listen to? The men of your nation that God set up since 1969, the I.S.U.P.K. You understand? You might say, well, there's a lot of Israelite groups. How you know? I.S.U.P.K was started in 1969. All these other groups are fly-by-night offshoots of men that were disgruntled and went and started their own thing. But Christ said what, Officer Ibai? One faith, one baptism.
Right.
So if they're not in here, they're not of Christ.
Right.
That's why we say we're the home of the truth. We don't have no weird doctrine. The doctrine we're teaching is what Christ and the apostles taught. What did Christ teach? That the Most High God is our Heavenly Father. And he's the King of everything. And under him is Christ. Christ is the Son of the Most High. You understand? The apostles are going to sit on 12 throne and the men that follow the apostles. So the gospel that Christ taught is the truth that the I.S.U.P.K teach today. Right. That God only loves Israel. The nation that everybody hates, that the African come over here and abuse, that the Chinese come over here and abuse, that the Arabs come over here and abuse, Officer Abad. Right. Those are the chosen people of God. You understand? And if you're segregating yourself with this ideology called FBA or ADOS, you're not following Christ. You're separating yourself from your identity, from your family. So with that, we just jump into the lesson, Exodus 36 and 10. So we'll go into the Lashon Kodash of Sabbath. Let's get it. Exodus. So turn your Bibles to the book of Exodus 36 and 10. And I read to a 17 of Sabbath. Is the first 7 or to 18?
16.
16? Come on. Exodus 36 and 10 in the Lashon Kodash. Waya Kabar Af Kamash Hayara Ya'if Akaf Al Akaf Wakamash Yawa Ya'if Kabar Akaf Al Akaf. Verse 11. Wayai Aish Lala Af Fakalaf Ail Shapat Haya Rayai Aya Ha'akath, Makwa Iha, Slakia, Makwa Taza, Bama Kabarath, Bun, Aisha, Basha Pat, Hayara Yaiha, Hakwaya Taza Wana, Bama Kabarath, Hasha Nayath, verse 12, Kamashyam, Lalaath, Aisha, Bayara Yaiha, Ha'akath, Wakamashyam, Lalaath, Aisha, Bakwatazaha, Hayara Yaiha, Ashar, Bama Kana Slakia, Bama Kabarath, Hashanayath, Makwa Ba Yalath, Halalath, Akath, all Akath, verse 13, Waya Aish, Kamashyam, Kwara Saya, Taza Slakia, Zahab, Waya Kabar, Af, Haya Ra'aith, Hakath, all Hakath, Bakwara Sayum, Waya Haya, Hamasha Ban, Akkad, verse 14, Waya Aish, Yara Ya'aith, Isayum, La'a Ho, Il, Hamasha Bun, Aishaf, Aisha Ra, Yara Ya'aith, Aisha, Athom, verse 15, Arak, Hayara Ya'aiha, Ha'akath, Shalashiam, Ba'ama, Wa'ara Na'ai, Amar Wath, Rakab, Hayara Ya'aiha, Ha'akath, Mada, Akath, La'aisha Thaya, Aishara, Yara Ya'aith, verse 16, Waya Kabar Af, Kamash, Hayara Ya'aith, Labad, Salakia, Wa'af, Shasha, Hayara Ya'aith, Labad. Okay, Exodus 36 and 10. Bakasha, you could. No, yep. Should bring it to water soon.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 36 and verse 10. And he coupled the 5 curtains one unto another, and the other 5 curtains he coupled one unto another. Verse 11. And he made loops of blue on the edge of one curtain from the selvage and the coupling. Likewise, he made in the uttermost side of another curtain and the coupling of the second. Verse 12. 50 loops made he in one curtain, and 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain which was in the coupling of the second. The loops held one curtain to another. Verse 13. And he made 50 taches of gold and coupled the curtains one unto another with the taches, so it became one tabernacle.
Right, so he's building a tab. This is discussion of how the tabernacle was built to specification. Right off the side back. And if you want to add, you could go ahead, okay, sir?
Verse 14. He made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains he made them. Verse 15.
So you could, so you could understand, right? Imagine having a tent, and on top of the roof of the tent, he put what? Goat hairs, right? Goat hairs. So it's like a water protectant. You ever seen like a goat hair, how heavy it's matted? So when water hits it, it just rolls off. Because if it was just fabric, I'm too avocado, just put it to the side. If it was just fabric off the side by like just linen, it would just come through. And then to cover the sides, they called it what? Curtains. So you know, if you see one of those like tents you set up to right off the side by, like tents you set up to like, you know, get shade from the sun, you could see right through it. But because it's a tabernacle, on the sides of it, they put curtains so you couldn't see right into it. So it kind of had like a privacy curtain off the side by it. You understand? So that's what off the side by is reading and we're discussing in Exodus. All right, so go ahead. I'll take up the rest of the reading. What verse you left? You got it? Okay.
Verse 15. The length of one curtain was 30 cubits, and the 4 curtains was the breadth of the one curtain.
Right. So you're just describing the measurements and the specifications. Go ahead.
The 11 curtains were of one size. Verse 16. And he coupled 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves.
Right. Do you understand? So that was it, Officer Abad?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just give me 1 second. Let me share the class.
Can we read the next?
No, I take it so you could eat your, you know what I mean?
I'll read it.
You do it? Okay, come. Then I'll read the English if you have to. Give you some time.
Y-A-H. This is the book of Exodus chapter 36 and verse 17. Y-A-H la-la-ah cha-mash yam ayo shapaf ha-yara ya-iha ha-kwa-ya-tazana ba-ma-cha-baraf wa-cha-ma-shamyam la-la-ah Aisha, Ayo, Shapah, Ha Yuraiha, Ha Barak, Ha Shunya. Verse 18. Waya Aish, Kwaraz, Ya, Nachasha, Hamash, Yam, La Chabar, Ha Ahal Laha Yah Akkad. Verse 19. Waya Aish Makasa La Ahal Ira Ayam Ma'adamyam Wai Machasa Irath Thakashyam Mala Ma'ala. Verse 20. Wayaish Av Hakwarashyam Lama Shakan Itizaya Shatayam Imadyam. Verse 21. Ishar Imath Irak Ha-Kushrash Wa-Ama Wa-Khatazaya Ha-Ama Rakab Ha-Kwarash Ha-Aikad. Verse 22. Shafya Ya Daf La Kwarash Ha-Akkad Mashalabath I-Khaf Ayo Akhaf Khan Aisha Lakal Kwarashya Hamashakan. Verse 23. Waya Aisha Ah Hakwarashyam Lama Shakan Aisharyam Parashyam La Pa'af Nagab Thayamaina. Back to the English.
I got you. I'm sorry. I'll read it. No sweat.
You sure I can?
No, I can read it. Or you want to eat when I'm doing the next set of Hebrew?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
This is going to be the book of Exodus, chapter 36, and verse 17. And he made 50 loops upon the uttermost edge of the curtain in the coupling, and 50 loops made he upon the edge of the curtain, which coupleth the second.
Right, that's kind of self-explanatory. So a lot of this we're reading don't need like no breakdown of a side Bible, no explanation. So we're just going to go through it. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 18. And he made 50 taches of brass to couple the tent together, that it might be one. Verse 19. And he made a covering for the tent of ram's skins dyed red, and a covering of badger skins above that. Verse 20. And he made boards of the tabernacle of shittim wood standing up.
You doing?
Count 21. The length of the board was 10 cubits, and the breadth of the board was 1 cubit and a half. Verse 22. One board had 2 tenons equally distant one from another. Thus did he make for all boards of the tabernacle.
So like you got to realize they were in the wilderness. So a tabernacle is sort of like a cabin off a side Bible, but this cabin is made with different materials.
Right.
You understand? So imagine making a wood frame, like or post, we'll call it today, right? Making the post, and on top of the post, you overlay it with fabric, right? And then you make a privacy curtain.
Right.
And on top of the curtain now, you put what? On top of the roof, you put the rams here or the goats here, right? And then on the curtains, you put more fabric.
Right.
Well, basically leather.
Right.
So now you have wood, you have leather, and you have fabric.
Right.
That's what protects you from the elements and to what secure you inside.
Right.
You understand? So some of the, you see some of these movies and you show how the Bedouins of the desert live.
Right.
That's like a cabin you could build while you want to go. It could be a permanent resident, or if you need to pack up and leave, you just break it down. The wood, you could just pull the post out and transport it.
Right.
So that basically reading about wilderness or desert life. You understand? Because we're on our way to the promised land, but we didn't get there yet.
Right.
So we're reading about life in our journey from Egypt in the wilderness on our way to the promised land. So that's everything you're reading now. That's the description we're reading of how we built the tabernacle or the tents we lived in. Read on.
Verse 23. And he made the board, and he made boards for the tabernacle.
And he made what?
Boards for the tabernacle.
Boards are made out of what? Wood.
Right.
Read on.
20 boards from the south side to south. And that was the end of the 7.
Okay, so now we'll take up the Lashon Kodash, the Hebrew from 36 and 24 to 30, right?
Yes. End of 30, yeah.
Exodus 36, verse 24. We're going to read in the Lashon Kodash, the holy tongue, right? The Ibar, the Hebrew. Now, this is the Assyrian Hebrew. This is not the ancient Hebrew. I don't want to say Paleo. All right. Wa ara ba'ayim adanya basak Aisha Fakath Aisharayim Aquarashyam Shanya Adanyam Fakath Aquarash Ha'akad Lashafya Yadatha Yawa Washanya Adanyam Fakath Hakwarash Ha'akad Lashafya Yadath Yawa, verse 25. Wala Tazah La'ai Hamash Shaban Hasha Nayaf La Pa'af La Pa'af Tazapawan Aisha Aisharayim Kwarashayim, verse 26. Wa'arabayim, Adanyatham, Pasak, Shanya, Adanyam, Fakath, Hakwarash, Ha-Achad, Washanya, Adanyam, Fakath, Hakwarash, Ha-Achad, verse 27. Wala Yerabathya, Hamasha Bun, Yama, Aisha, Shasha, Kwarash, Yim, verse 28. Washanya, Kwarashayim, Aisha, Lamakwa Taza'ith, Hama Shaban, Bayara Kathium, verse 29. Wahayawa, Thawa'a Salakia, Thawa'a Mama, Mala Matha, Waya Kadwa, Yahayawa, Thamayim, all Ra'ashwa, all Hata Ba'aith, Aitha, Ha'akath, Khan, Aisha, Lashanya, Yaham, Lashanya, Hamakwa Taza'aith, verse 30. Waha Yawa, Shama Na, Kwarashayim, Wa'adanya Hum, Kasak, Shasha, Aisha, Adanyam, Shanya, Adanyam, Fakath, Hakwarash, Ha'akad. That's it. So go back to Exodus 24 to 30 in the English. 36, verse 24, Slakia.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 36.
I'll go ahead off the side, but I read it. No sweat. Come on. And 40 sockets of silver he made under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his 2 tenons. Verse 25. And for the other side of the tabernacle, which is toward the north corner, he made 20 boards. Verse 26. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. Verse 27. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 boards. Verse 28. And 2 boards made he for the corner of the tabernacle in the 2 sides. Verse 29. And there were coupled beneath and coupled together at the head thereof to one ring. Thus he did to both of them in both the corners. And there were 8 boards, and their sockets were 16 sockets of silver under every board, 2 sockets. So now we added a precious metal. So it was decorative. After you had the leather, the fabric, the boards, and then now they were overlaid with silver. Show that this is the book of black people.
Right.
Whatever we have, we decked out. You ever see the so-called Latino with any type of vehicle, how they deck it out? Right. Lowrider culture in California is Chicano culture. I.S.U.P.K, mainly I.S.U.P.K. The Mexicans was the one that started taking old cars off the side by. Think about it. In a 1969 Chevrolet Impala, right? And what did the mind of the Mexican decided to do what? Take off the shock spring and put hydraulic lifts on it. And then what do you see the Mexican do? You see the front wheel going up in the air, bouncing up and down, the back wheel going up, the car rocking from side to side. That's all. And then you can see the car bouncing like a spider with independent what? Shock springs. That came out of the mind of Mexicans. Now you turn on TV, you see Monster Garage where the white man tried to copy what the Mexican came out of the mind of the Mexican. Doing what the oppressor always do. Black, Latinos, and Native Indians. We invent something, and then the white man comes in and steals it like a thief he is. He's a thief. I seen there was an invention, the black man, I forgot his name, was Matt Seliger or something like that, right? He invented the machine that put the sole of the shoe to the leather, the top part of the shoe, and combined it to make one. So he basically invented the modern shoe. He went to get a pattern. They said, nah, you a nigga, you're a black man. You can't get a pattern. Took his patent and sold it. And guess what? I heard the money they took from selling his patent for the shoe invention, that's how Harvard University was started. The same universities, Ivy League school, that they won't let blacks and Latinos in. You understand? So the point is, when we're reading about, it sounds mundane, Officer, but the construction of a tent or a tabernacle, back then they used the word tent, tabernacle, but we could call it a tent today, right? That's modern time, we call it a tent. Right. And just a regular tent, look what the lengths we went through as blacks and Latinos and Native Indians, as Israelites, to deck out something you're going to be in the desert. Right. That means we have to travel with this material. Different type of woods, right? Different type of lumber, right? Different type of lumber, different type of metal, silver, brass. Some of it was overlaid with gold. Right. Different animals you travel with have a ram and goat skins, right. Linen, cut to certain specifications. So yeah, we're just reading about a tent, but by reading about it and seeing how elaborate the design and decoration of it shows you that it was black people. Right. Right? A Valentino, a designer, European designer, right? He made a belt buckle that says Valentino. You see any white people wearing Valentino belt buckle? But you get a black man in the ghetto in poverty, we pay almost what? $400 for just the buckle of the belt. You ever seen Donald Trump in a Valentino belt buckle? Or any rich Edomite? Jeff Bezos. You see, Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. Do you see him in Gucci shoes on? But you see the people in the ghettos in poverty, we spend all this money in poverty, and we're all the designer clothes that make it look fly. Right? In Brooklyn, they had this group called the Lowlifes. Now, it sounds like, who would want to be a lowlife? Lowlife was we chopped the P-O off the PLO, polo, and just said low. And we took Ralph Lauren designs and combined it. And he had different type of clothing for different, like if he was a sportsman, you know, business casual, right? And ski wear. Right. You know what black people in the ghetto did? A black man would take the winter turtleneck, match it up with a casual blazer with some sportsman cargo pants, with some outdoor men boots. And because the black people in the ghetto put it together so well, Ralph Lauren had to go into the ghetto and hire some of the black men to design and put the mannequins together and make his clothing. And elevated his clothing because his clothing was for high society. But the way the black people put it together, they couldn't understand it. Until this day, they can't duplicate it. Showing you that we're the chosen people of God. We're the salt of the earth. Whatever we touch, we set the trends. Right. So yeah, it's mundane reading about it. Take the tenons and wood, but listen to how decorative we made it. Everything we do, we got to make it top notch. Right. Black man invented the blues. Took a tin drum, right, that you put water in, like a horse's trough. Right. Turned it upside down and started beating on top of it, making sounds. Took a box, right? Officer I took a box, put a neck on the box, put strings on it, and now he got a guitar. And it's a very distinctive sound for the guitar sound in the blues. Came from the mind of blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. So yeah, when you read in this Bible, we already read that God told a white man, don't even touch the Bible. The Bible has nothing to do with white people. It has, because why? It's the book of blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. To prove that, real quick, Officer I-B, get me Romans 9:4. And so far, we only read 14 verses, right? I read 14 and you read 7, so that's 21. Okay, come. So we getting there.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 9, verse 4. Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory.
To whom pertaineth the what?
To whom pertaineth the adoption.
If you didn't know, the adoption is Christ dying on the cross. He adopted us, as the scripture says. We were bought with a price. The price was his blood and his life. To who pertaineth the adoption? Read on.
And the glory.
And the what?
The glory.
The glory is the kingdom of heaven. Rulership on the planet earth. Read on.
And the covenant.
And the what?
Covenants.
The covenants, the promises. The covenant that God made with our forefathers, with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Read on.
And the giving of the law.
And the what?
And the giving of the law.
So the only person that could be a sinner according to the Bible are the Israelites.
Right.
Do the nations get judged for their wickedness? Yeah, they still get judged. But they get judged according to the law, but the law was never given to them. Meaning they were supposed to be taught by the Israelites. We are the true rulers of the earth. That's why God gave us the laws.
Right.
He didn't give it to anyone. So then if he didn't give it to anybody else, how was they supposed to learn it? They were supposed to learn it through us.
Right.
But because we're that nation that desired Officer I-B, and our oppressor turned everything upside down,
Right.
The earth is out of balance. Read on.
And the servants of God.
And who the only people that could serve God? It said in the beginning of the verse, the Israelites. Read on.
And the promises.
Read on.
Verse 5. Whose are the fathers?
Whose are the what?
Whose are the fathers?
Read that again.
Whose are the fathers?
Whose are the fathers of the record called the Bible? That's who the fathers of the Bible is. That's who the fathers of the records is. That's who the fathers of the faith is. The Israelites. Everything is in Romans 9:4 and 5. You can't get around. There's nobody else in that office I bought. It named them. It named us specifically. Who are Israelites, or who pertaineth everything you just read? Can an Arab say he's a servant God? The Bible just said the Israelites are the servants of God.
Right.
Our oppressor, Esau, so-called white man, the nation of Edom, they can't lay claim to that. Because it says only the Israelites. Why did I go there? Who the fathers? Because we're reading about a tent and we're reading how elaborate it is. And I gave you the example of how the Mexicans did with a 69 Impala. How they put hydraulics on it and make a car dance. How they took spray paint. The Latinos in New York City made graffiti.
Right.
So you would thought those backwards Egyptians how to make hieroglyphics. If you look at graffiti, that's modern day hieroglyphics. You can't even look at it and decipher it. Only the artist could tell you what he wrote.
Right.
Breakdancing. Black man took a cardboard, threw it on the ground, and started spinning on his head. Now in the Olympics, we see some Australian white woman making a mockery. Calling us a ray gun. Making a mockery. No black people involved in the breakdance competition, but it came out of our mind. Another invented we made. But because we're that nation not desired, they just take our intellectual property and cast us to the side. But it cannot be denied because the Bible shows you how much swag we have. And that swag, we call it swag, in the Bible is called the Spirit of God.
Right.
It's called salt. Shout out to Quadazakara for salt bearer wear. You understand? So let's get back into the precept. I left off about 30. If you want to do the next 7.
Yes, you go to 31 is the next verse. Right.
Okay, so we'll go 31 to 36.
31 to 37.
37? Okay, come.
This is the book of Exodus, the 36 and verse 31. YAHANNA barayakya itazaya shatyam chamasha lakwarashya tazalai hama Shakan ha'achah, verse 32. Wachamash masha barayacham la quarashya taza la hama shakan ha shanaya wahamasha barayacham la quarashya hama shakan layaraka yama, verse 33. Waya aish af ha baryak ha thayakan labarak ba bathwaka ha quarashya man ha quataza al ha quataza, verse 34. Wa'ath ha quarashya tazapa zahab wa'ath taba itham aisha zahab Bathyam la Baryam Kam Wayatazak Af ha Barayacham Zahab, verse 35. Wa ya Aish Af ha Parakam Thakalat wa Ara Gaman wa Tha Wala'itha Shanya Washasha Mashazar Ma'asha Khasha Aisha Atha Karabium, verse 36. Ya Aish Laha La Arabaiha Mawadiya Shakyam Wayatazapam Zahab Wawayaham Zahab Wayatazak Laham Arabaiha Adanaya Kasak, verse 37. Waya Aish Masak La Pathak Ha'ai Ho Thakalath Wa'ara Gaman Watha Wal La'ith Shaya Washasha Mashazar Ma'aisha Raquam.
So 31 in English.
Okay. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 36 and verse 31. And he made bars of shittim wood, 5 of the boards of the one side of the tabernacle, verse 32, and the 5 bars of the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and the 5 bars of the wood of the tabernacle for the sides westward, verse 33. And he made the middle of the bar to shoot through the boards from the one end to the other, verse 34. And he overlaid the bars with gold.
With what?
And he overlaid the bars with gold.
So we read earlier that they had silver. Now they're saying they took it up a notch off a side by it and now added gold to the mix. They really blinging this thing out. Read on.
And made their rings of the gold to be places for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold.
Man, this thing was blinging.
Right.
So they had shittim wood, and then they plated the wood, and the rings that the wood had to go through, they plated out with gold as well.
Right.
That's a blinked out tent. They call it today glamping.
Right.
Glamorous camping, and they say glamorous and camping, and just combine it to say glamping.
Right.
That's what we're reading about, glamping. It came from the mind of black folk. We invented that. Remember, our oppressor was eating out of the skulls of their dead relatives up in the caves of the Caucasus, picking the lice out of all the hair on their body and eating it. You know that? That oppressor was a caveman. They didn't even have a developed language. It's because of our constant love for heathens. We went up in the Caucasus mountain and recruited the devil, cleaned him up, shaved all his hair off his body, showed him how to use a toilet, how to use toilet paper, toiletries, how to use the bathroom, take a bath, how to use knife and fork, and we civilized them. Brought them around us, and because of that self-hatred that we always have, we started fighting among ourselves. Right. The oppressor said, hey, while they fighting amongst themselves, let's level up. How you know that to be true? After the Dark Ages, what did they call that period? Renaissance. What does Renaissance mean? A rebirth of white supremacy in the earth. Why did they call it Dark Ages? Because black or dark-skinned men ruled the earth. So during the Dark Ages, what happened? You had the British fighting against the French fighting against the Germans, right? The French and the rest of our brothers that was in Spain, right? Because remember, if you read Babylon and Timbuktu, it told us that we fled into Africa after 70 AD when Jerusalem got destroyed. And we fled into places called Tunisia. Tunisia is in Morocco, right? Then you read about men in history. What is he called? His name is the Hammer, Hannibal. And famously, Hannibal did what? Took elephants and went against the Roman Empire, went into Spain, and was on his way into Europe and got stopped. And then when we was in Spain, we started calling ourselves what? Moors. What Moor means black, right? Or just Moors. Then some of us migrate, we was already in Europe as the British, as the Britons, as the Irish. But how you know that's true? Because what are we fighting over today? Colors. One group like red, another group like blue, blood and Crips. Latin Kings Nieta amongst the Spanish tribe. Right? Black folk, since we sinned against God, this nation constantly being a flux of fighting. Now you have FBA ADOS versus the Latino tribes. Latinos say, hey, black people are racist against us. Black people saying Latinos are racist against us. And we're not realizing that on top of both of us is the oppressor with his foot on both of our necks. And I was talking to Priest Shabar and I was explaining to him what it really is jail culture, Officer Abad, that done spilled over into real life or on the street. Because I tell you how if you didn't understand Latino, if you didn't understand black man, this is how the oppressor manipulates you, right? We are over police. So say you get locked up, you're innocent. You didn't do nothing. Cop grabbed you and you just turn around and say, hey, what you grabbed me for? Oh, now you got an assault charge because he's an agent of the state. The judge said, hey, you assaulted the cop. Assault is a felony. You get a year in jail. So now you're in jail, right? As a black man. Same thing happened to the Latino. Latino in jail, black man in jail. The white man is the devil the Bible speaks of. So you know what he does? He goes to the black man. He told us one of the CO, the correction officer, bring this pack of Newports in the jail and give it to Tyrone. Let's say Tyrone represents the Negro, right? The black man. Bring the cigarettes in the jail, Officer Ibad, to the Negro, right? To Tyrone. Tyrone, they already know that Tyrone is industrious. Tyrone, because in jail they have it set up is the food is horrible. Don't ask me how I know. The food is horrible, right? You don't know what the hell it is. Everything is wet and loose. You don't know what. It's just mystery meat. You don't know if you're eating human beings, if you're eating rats. You don't know what it is. So now they have commissary. But commissary, you need actual cash. But you're in jail. So how are you going to get money? So people either put money on your books. And what it does, it creates economy within the jail system. Right? So I'm broke, but I have cigarettes. Your family, you have a bigger family than I do. But I have the cigarettes. So I'll come to you, and this is part how the economy. Officer Ibad, I know you like Newports. I give you 2 Newports for a packet of sugar, because if you didn't know, they don't give you sugar in jail. For a packet of sugar and a honey bun. So now I got sugar and honey bun and cigarettes. You have the cigarettes. You could trade the cigarettes you just got. Keep one for yourself, even though cigarettes are unlawful. But I'm just using it to give you an example how the oppressor oppress us in jail and divide us. Right? So now you have 2 cigarettes, you go do your trade, I do my trade. The oppressor now go find Hector that represents the Latino tribes. And now he gives Hector something valuable in the jail. He start giving Hector lighters. So he give Hector 10 lighters. So now you Tyrone, you got cigarettes, but no matches, no lighter. Hector got the lighters. So now that's the economy, right? So what? So now who's on top of both of you? The CEO is bringing it in. These are considered contraband, right? You're not supposed to have certain things. Cell phones. How cell phones get in jail? You know, when you go on YouTube, see all the jail videos, right? So now you create an industry, right, or economy. But in business, what does that create? Competition. Competition, because now Tyrone is going to figure out how he could cut Hector off and get the lighters for himself. Vice versa, now Hector want to cut Tyrone off and get cigarettes for his lighters so he could have his own business. And that's how the oppressor caused division in the jail system, if you didn't know. That's how it works. And then now in jail, Tyrone gets out because he had beef with Hector. Now he takes it on the street and he's telling his people, hey, these Spanish people they are competition. Hector gets out and now Hector doing jail politics on the street. Tell me where the lie is. You see how and then who's sitting on top of it? The oppressor. And that's what they do here. We're in the ghettos and slums. You're going to tell me, Officer Ibad, you complaining about the jobs that the Latinos is taking from you? How many Negroes you know is picking strawberries? I'll wait. How many niggas you know that tell you they got a job picking strawberries? Officer Ibad, you know any? I don't know any. How many Negroes you know that got a lawn care business? Landscaping. How many people know that black people working in construction? You know why? Because they unionize the construction industry to lock out black and Latino. Because they tell you because of the union, and they set up a system where you have to be an apprentice, and then after certain years of apprentice, you do your time, and then you become another rank, and then after that rank, then you become a master, whatever, of that industry, and then you can work in the field. So if the oppressor is the one that's setting the rule, how could you ever join a union if they hate you because of your skin color? So unions was meant to lock out blacks and Latinos. So then what the oppressor would do, he would hire the Latino because he knows he can't pay Tyrone $15 an hour in construction because Tyrone knows his worth. But he could pay Hector because Hector just want to feed his family. So he's giving Hector $10. And then he's going to tell you that he already locked out of the industry, Ibad, that Hector is taking your job when he wouldn't have hired you in the first place. You see how they play psychological mind? So just like Commanding General YAHANNA had to teach me, I'm going to use myself, that don't blame black people, don't blame Latino people for our problem. At the head of our problem is our oppressor, the so-called white man. He's the one that's the puppet master manipulating us. Why he's allowed to do that? Because we refuse to return back to our identity. Right. We started the class reading Zephaniah 2:1. Christ already, listen, Yahweh, Jesus Christ, gave us the winning strategy, Ibad, brotherhood and sisterhood, right? So now that's an idea, right? What is the proof of concept, Officer Ibad? Proof of concept meaning you have an idea or a concept, and the proof is, how do I know that it will work if I enact this concept? The proof is there's a Chinatown in every city, USA. Why? Because the Chinese practice brotherhood. They practice racism. Why is there a little India in every city, every ghetto, USA? Time check, Comic-Con. Right? It's because they practice what? Brotherhood and sisterhood. Every nation around the nation of Israel practices racism and brotherhood. But the children of Israel, blacks, Latinos, and Native Indian, we got to read in the Bible where God got to use a prophet to tell us to gather together. Right. Shouldn't that be something that naturally we look and see all these different racial groups uniting together and got an economic base and power? But because we're fragmented, fighting for scraps, we're the ones that's being victimized. Chinese people don't vote. But you don't hear no unarmed Chinese man getting unalived by the cops.
Right.
There is no Chinese civil rights movement. They stay to themselves because they know they have their own industry. You understand? Just a couple months ago, or a month ago, they found 3 Chinese national officers that had biological weapons to destroy the agricultural system of the United States of America, showing you that China is in an active Cold War with the United States. Is ICE agent rounding up any Asians? Is any Chinese being kicked out of the United States? No. Their sole focus and purpose is the Latino tribes, the Haitians, and the West Indians. Proving you what we read earlier, that we're that nation that's not desired. You understand? So time is against us. We'd even begin the service with prayer, Officer Biden. Yeah, we start late. All right, so we'll wrap it up so we can get the prayers in. So Salaki, Officer Biden, real quick, you just put everybody on the Summer Jam screen real quick, if you could, to highlight everybody that's in the chat. Highlight their comments and who it is, give them some shine. You know, so we appreciate you tuning in. So yes, so I'm gonna try to incorporate, because I see the men above me do it. Officer Kazak Iman, I see he engages with the chat, and I realize by engaging with the chat, it makes the viewing audience feel connected to the class, and it's called what? Engagement. So we want to increase the engagement so our people could realize that on Saturday mornings, on the Sabbath morning, they have a class they could come into where we could read the history of where we came from, and then bring it, and I like to bring it up to today to see where we're at, because you're supposed to learn from the mistakes of the past. And the mistakes of the past was when we sin against God, we have Egypt. When we sin against God, we have the Renaissance. When we sin against God, we have the modern day ICE agent and the race soldier called the police department. Slave patrols. So then, just like during the time of Christ, right? Christ was considered a revolutionary. And he told us, render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, meaning leave the politics to white folk. That's their business. All that stuff in America, all that, that's for them. What you need to do is to lock into what God wants you to do. This is your government right here. This is how we're going to take control of the earth. You understand? How, as a black man, how are you going to fight the war when you have diabetes, Officer Ibad? How are you going to fight the war when you have gout? Because our health is poor because we're eating all this terrible food. There's a reason why they say mind, body, spirit. And that's why God gave us a dietary law. He created the human body, so he knows what to put in it to make your body perform at an optimum level, meaning top level. Right. So if you're eating garbage like swine, I watched a video on YouTube where the oppressor said what he did was they have rat traps. So he caught a bunch of rats, and to get rid of the rats, he didn't put it in a garbage bag because he knows it's going to stink. He just threw it in the pig pen because he knew the pigs would eat the dead rats with them. And he said they have maggots in them. So when you eat swine, that's what you eat, maggots. You know, if you take a piece of pig or pork, leave it out in the sun, and you pour Coca-Cola on it, all the maggots to start popping out of it? Because that's what pork is. It's maggots. A pig lives in slop. If you look at their blood or look at the tissue on the microscope, all you're seeing is bacteria, worms and bacteria. That's why God told us don't even touch it, Officer Ibad. God said it, not me. That had nothing to do with religion. The man that designed your body says for you to operate optimally, I create this animal to eat the garbage. That's his function. You're not supposed to go and eat the garbage that God created. He gave you a higher diet. Animals that process their waste. A cow has 4 stomachs. You understand? A goat have multiple stomachs. And by that process, make the meat clean. A cow don't eat meat. But like I said, a pig eat rats. You understand? Chickens eat grain. But a vulture eat dead animals. That's why a vulture is considered unclean. So I don't want to belabor the point. You're just going to leave it right there. You highlight everybody? All right, so the men up here, we're going to end the class, so I imagine. And we want to thank Sister Rakaya. I'm sorry about the camera. It's fixed. Okay. Give thanks to Sister Rakaya for providing the breakfast. She brought us some chicken and waffles, some orange juice. So we're going to give her a shout out, Sister Rakaya, and what's that about the shofar? Or the yayan, the wine. We have three priest parts. Just me not.
YAHANNA, which means Israel.
You know, right? I mean, just two out. All right. Go to shofar one time. And the Israelite Majam to salute the Torah. Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai Barak Yah.
Yahweh Hashem Yahshua Barak.
All right. At Majam, Wapanya, Wasal, Wapanya, Hakodam, turn to face the east. I'm going to send up the prayers.
This is the Lord's Prayer in the Hebrew. Abanawa.
Abanawa.
Shabbat Shemayim.
Shabbat Shemayim.
Kodash.
Kodash.
Hayah.
Hayah.
Shemka.
Shemka.
Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Malakaka.
Malakaka.
Taba'ah.
Taba'ah.
Tzaka.
Tzaka.
Hayah.
Hayah.
Aisha.
Aisha.
Barakazah.
Maharataza.
Tawah.
Chawah.
Hayah.
Hayah.
Bashemayim.
Bashemayim. Nathanael.
Cham.
Cham. Kal.
Yawan.
Yawan.
Basalakna.
Basalaknao.
Kabuwatna.
Kabawatnao.
Kasalakna.
Kasalaknao.
Kabawatnao.
Wala'ah. Wala'ah.
Yaino.
Yaino. Wanasai one.
Abal.
Abal.
Shino.
Shino.
Mayan.
Mayan.
Rai.
Rai.
Kaya.
Kaya.
Yaka.
Bacha.
Malakwa.
Amalakwa.
Lala.
Waha'ala.
Bara.
Waha'ala. Waha'ala.
Aman.
Amen. Lord's Prayer in English. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. So be it. So be it.
This is our or the power in the Hebrew. Yahweh Hashem Yahshua.
Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Baruch Kushah. Nathanael. Achat. Akat. Lapa. Kamakala. Kamadawa. Akat. Atahar. Amatazarayim. Akat. Ahakim. Amathim. Akat. Arakawat. Atama'ala. Lagorishan. Hashem Yahushua. Wadamu. English translation. Yahweh. In the name of Yahushua. Please give us the power to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. The power to cleanse the lepers. The power to raise the dead. The power against unclean spirits. To cast them out. In the name of Yahushua. Thank you so big.
Thank you so big. This is the blessed Israel in Hebrew. Yahweh Hashem Yahushua.
Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua.
Barak
Yahshua. Wahabayat. Sapari.
Hashem Yahushua.
Hashem Yahushua.
Wadamun.
We're just going to go straight to the 83rd Psalms.
83rd Psalm? Okay. Right now? Okay.
Come.
This is the book of Psalms, the 83 in the Hebrew. Alahayim.
Alahayim.
Adamayalaka.
Al-Damayalaka.
Al-Takarash.
Al-Takarash.
Al-Tashakwat.
Al-Tashakwat.
Al. Kayahana.
Kayana.
Awayabika.
Awiyabika.
Yahamayawan.
Yahamayawan.
Ra'ash.
Ra'ash.
Al-Aimaka.
Al-Aimaka.
Yawayanwa.
Yawayanwa.
Sawada.
Sawada. Waitha.
Ya'atazawwa.
Aitazawwa. Atazawanika.
Amora.
Amora.
Lakwa.
Lakwa.
Nakakin.
Manakhakin.
Galia.
Galia.
Wala'ah.
Wala'ah.
Yazikar.
Yazikar.
Shem Yashua.
Shem Yasha'al. Aiwada.
Kaya.
Kaya.
Ya'atazawwa.
Yawaitazawwa. Laba.
Khadwa.
Khadwa.
Ayaka.
Alyaka.
Barya.
Boryat.
Yakarathwa.
Yakharathwa.
Alhaya.
Ahalaya.
Adawam.
Adawam.
Wayashma alayim.
Wayashamaliyam.
Mawaba.
Mawa'aba.
Wahagorium.
Wagorium.
Gabal.
Gabal.
Wamalan.
Wamawan.
Wamalak.
Wamalak.
Halashat.
Halashat.
Amishabi.
Anyashabia.
Tazawar.
Tazawar.
Gamashawar.
Gamashawar.
Lawat.
Lanawa.
Amam.
Hayamum.
Alwa.
Hayawa.
Zarawat.
Zarawai.
Banilawat.
The Banyalawai.
Salah.
Salah.
Ashalaham.
Aishalaham.
Kamadian.
Kamadian.
Kasiyah.
Kasaya.
Sara'ah.
Sara'ah.
Kayabian.
Kayabia.
Banakal.
Wanakal.
Koyashwan.
Koyashwan.
Nashamadwa.
Nashamadwa.
Bayan.
Bayan.
The Ira.
The Ira.
Hayawa.
Hayawa.
The Mun.
The Mun.
La Dakma.
La Dakma.
Shayatamwa.
Shayatanwa.
Nadayabma.
Nadayadma.
Kaira.
Kairab.
Wakazaaba.
Wakaza'aba.
Kazabak.
Wakazabak.
Kakazamuna.
Wakal Tazmanai.
Kanasiyakamwa.
Kal Nasiyakanwa.
Sure.
Sure.
Amora.
Amora.
Narisha.
Narisha.
Anawa.
Anawat.
Ah.
Af.
Alawa.
Nanawat.
Alahayam.
Alahayim.
Alahaya.
Alahaya.
Shayatamwa.
Shayatanwa.
Galia.
Galdo.
Wakwash.
Wakwash.
Panirawacha.
Apani Wakha.
Kaash.
Kaash.
Yara.
Ira Yaira.
Wakalaaba.
Wakalaaba.
Kalahat.
Alahat.
Rayam.
Ariyam.
Khan.
Khan.
Dawadama.
Dawadatma.
Basarika.
Wasa Iwaka.
Wabasawapafka.
Wawasa Wapatka.
The Bahalam.
Tabalam.
Wala'ah.
Wala'ah.
Panyaham.
Panyaham.
Palawan.
Palawan.
Wayabakwash.
Wayabakwashwa.
Shamka.
Shamka.
Yahawa.
Yahawa.
Yabashwa.
Nabashwa.
Wayabahawa.
Wayabahawa.
Ayai.
Ayai.
Wayakapar.
Wayakarpadwa.
Wayabad.
Wayabadwa.
Wayadaid.
Wayadaidwa.
Kayata.
Kayata.
Shamka.
Shamka.
Yahawa.
Yahawa.
Baraka.
Nabaka.
Ayuwan.
Ayawan.
Alkaharakazah.
All right, Psalms 83 in English. Keep not thou silent, O Yahweh.
Keep not thy silence, O Yahweh.
Hold not thy peace.
Hold not thy peace.
And be not still, O Lord.
Be not still, O Lord.
For lo, thy enemies
Follow thy enemies.
make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gobal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines, with the inhabitants of Tyre. Ashur is also joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. Salah, do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison, which perished and endured. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nose like a web, and like the air, yea, all their princes, as Zabah and as Zalmunna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of Yahweh in possession. O my power, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as a fire burned at the wood, and as the flame set at the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name. O Lord, let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish, that men may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the Most High over all the earth. Sorry, just need to turn. All right, I'm going to give you some. sisters Yushabiim. Men of Israel, we're going to give each other a courtesy salute. Men of Israel, Amadu Shabbat. Amadu, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Rakathalim. Yajimata, Sar, turn face sisters Imadu. Your Imadu Shabbat is your right hand clasped over your left, your feet at a 45-degree angle, your head covered and bowed. And you repeat the salute back to us. Men of Israel, Imadu Shabbat. Imadu, Barak, Yahweh Shema Alatah by Hashem Yahushua.
Yahweh Shema Alatah by Hashem Yahushua.
Yajimata, class dismissed. Right on time, I decided about cut your feet because the brother's at the door.